Thanksgiving. That week garbage pickup will be on Friday. Anyone who has dinghies at any of the beaches, they should be removed by December 1st. And the public meeting that we have for the proposed tree law and public input on the dock law has been scheduled for November 23rd, and it'll be at Emma Clark Library at 7 o'clock.
Ask a question.
Reports, public safety, Frank? Oh, you ready?
Can we revisit that resolution with public comments at the end of the resolution? So after we pass everything, then people get a chance to change the resolution.
Right, we're gonna end up getting changing it.
Alright.
Yeah. Frank?
But before I do this, we had considered doing, talked about doing every other month, so consideration. And it's probably like we changed gas stations to get more reasonable.
What are they gonna, you're gonna change, oh, it's gonna change gas stations, right? Okay.
Aside from that,
So do you want us to look at what's going on with what, okay.
Frank already did, different gas stations use S, so we're gonna need different cards.
Speedway.
Speedway. Whatever.
Well, you get one of those cards, it's 10 cents off.
Actually, that's not in effect anymore.
Oh, it's on
Now you get points. And when you get enough points for buying things in their little store there, then you get the discount on your gas.
That's true.
Every other month.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, that was nice to get a dime off.
Incident reports for 10, house checks 9, pet warnings 2, special event park, 21, permits, special event. Parking warnings 13, summons 8, directed patrol 7, and quality of life warnings. But, you do.
Anything else?
Alright.
The treasurer just wanted everyone to know that the audit was complete as of, for May 31st, 2015. Copies of it will be available at the clerk's office after we approve the resolution tonight. And if anyone has any questions, if I can answer them, he said that I can email him and he'll get back to any of that. John, anything on the harbor test?
No, the last meeting was last month, and at that time, though, we did complain that there was still some pretty nice weather. We were upset that town of Brookhaven was only authorizing the harbor master to go out 3 days a week during the week, not weekends. On the weekends, we still were having a considerable amount of boats coming into the harbor, and as a result, also the Coast Guard Commandant has actually written to Brookhaven and said that they would support having the harbor master out there on the weekend as opposed to weekdays, but apparently it goes into union things, and it's a deep practice. The harbor master would love to be doing it, but he's kind of constrained by being part of the union of Brookhaven workers. And, it's one of those catch-22 situations. But bottom line is the next meeting will not be until December, because obviously things have died down in the harbor, and we'll
You have the date?
resume. Oh, I don't have the offering. It's actually the second Wednesday in December, whatever that date happens to be, second Wednesday.
The 9th. I don't know if any of the residents received letters from the town of Brookhaven. I think all of us did about what's happening to Poquott Harbor. Rich, do you want to give a report on that?
Yeah, we're not quite sure who they sent it to exactly. They just sent the copies of letters I've seen so far have just said resident. So I don't know exactly who got them and who didn't get them. But
Do you want to say what the letter says?
yeah, it's somewhat of a friendly letter from Ed Romaine's office, just saying congratulations, you live near the water, and by the way, we may be doing a survey of the water quality in Setauket Harbor, and by the way, you may have to sign on board for whatever we find. So I'm in the middle of drafting a letter back to the town. I've asked Roger Flood and Ken Sunberg to help write it, as well as yourself, just because we want to make sure that we don't get brought back into a retrofit situation with our MS4 Phase 2 permit from the state for stormwater discharges. We did a lot of work over the last year to get out of having any discharge points that go into Setauket Harbor. Setauket Harbor is going to need a lot of work to get the water clean enough to support shellfish and swimming, which is what the goal is for the state. So we're trying to stay as far away from it as possible because I think it's going to be very expensive for the town of Brookhaven to do that. So we want to make sure they understand that. We've already gotten a pass from both the state and the EPA saying we do not discharge to that waterway. So that's what the letter's going to gently, as kindly back to them, remind them that, we've already gotten a pass from the state. And they can certainly do whatever they need to do, but we're in compliance on our side of the pond.
All right, we'll start with resolutions then. So, Joe, resolutions, can I read it like this, or should it say what the change? Okay. Resolution adopting the November 17, 2015 agenda, as adopted is tonight. So moved. All in favor? Motion carries.
Resolution accepting the monthly reports of the village public safety, treasurer, and public health. So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Resolution adopting the minutes of the house.
Resolution adopting the minutes from October 8th, 2015 work session, meeting of the Board of Trustees.
So moved.
Moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Carries. Resolution adopting the minutes of, from October 8th, 2015 meeting of the Board of Trustees. So moved.
Second.
Okay, so we're tabling, number 5. We don't have those minutes yet, and we'll do that for next meeting.
Resolution adopting the village of Poquott emergency policy.
Second, all in favor?
Nope.
Motion carries. Resolution to set the date for the 2016 organizational meeting to be held on July 5th at 7 p.m. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
So we can only comment after it's a done deal?
Yes.
So where is any input from the village residents?
We're not taking it, we're taking them at the end.
Even after it's a done deal? So after you sign the contract, then you can ask a question?
Yeah, Karen,
Resolution to schedule the village of Poquott meeting of trustees, board of trustees meetings as well. Be held at the work session 1 hour before each board of trustees meeting, regular session January 9th
at 9:30.
9:30 a.m. So moved.
Second? All in favor? Motion carries. You wanna go now?
Yes, so, thanks, number 9 is really 9A and 9B. 9A is a secret resolution. Could you pass this one? Joe, could you take one and pass this one? This is a, secret resolution regarding the acceptance of the dedication of the private portion of Maybeck Road as a permanent easement for the extension of Maybeck Drive as a public road. And this is just a secret portion. This is not accepting it. This is only determining whether or not it will have a significant negative impact on the environment. We did have an EAF provided to, submitted to the village. The environmental assessment form indicates that there will not be a significant negative impact on the environment. Also submitted with the EAF was a negative declaration, which is a form that determines that there will not be a significant negative impact on one or more aspects of the environment. With this resolution, the Board of Trustees would adopt lead agency status for purposes of SECRA with regard to the acceptance of the dedication. The Board would, after adopting lead agency status, determine that the adoption of the resolution accepting the dedication would be an unlisted action for purposes of SECRA, and then determine that the adoption of the resolution would not have a significant negative impact on the environment, and that it will not have a substantial adverse change in existing air quality, ground or surface water quality or quantity, traffic or noise levels, increase in solid waste production, substantial increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, leaching, or drainage problems, will not result in the removal or destruction of large quantities of vegetation or fauna, substantial interference with the movement of any resident or migratory fish or wildlife species. Impact will not have a negative impact on habitation or other significant adverse change on natural resources. Impairment of a critical environmental area. Will not result in a creation of material conflict with our current plans or goals. Will not result in a hazard to human health. Will not result in a substantial change in land use. Will not encourage or attract a large number of people to a place for more than a few days. Will not create a material demand for other actions, and will not change two or more any of the elements that I just read off, thereby creating a negative impact by that combination. So those are the criteria that the DEC encourages that we review this by. Does anybody have any questions about any of the items that I read off or any other item? Okay. So by adopting this resolution, you would be determining that there will not be a significant negative impact on the environment, and also adopting a negative declaration for purposes of secret. And again, this is just the environmental review. This is not the actual dedication of the road.
Okay. So do I have a motion to accept the secret review?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Motion carries. Okay.
Okay.
No, we're not done yet. That was just secret.
Take one pass.
All right.
Please take one pass. So this resolution is a resolution whereby the board would accept the dedication of a permanent road easement from the four property owners. I still have to look over it. It looks like they executed what I provided. I have to confirm the language, make sure there were not any changes, but it doesn't appear that there would be. What this document does is it creates a public road. It agrees to create a public road of Maybeck, the extension of Maybeck Drive, as a 25-foot wide public road extending from the existing portion of Maybeck Drive. And the meets and bounds description of each of the properties that was dedicated is on this. It's basically approximately 12.5 feet of each person's property to lay out the road as it currently exists. And then there's also finally the survey company gave us the meets and bounds of the entire portion that's being converted from private to public. You're determining that the acceptance of the dedication is serves a public purpose and provides a proper public benefit to the residents of the village and the village of Poquott. And it's further resolved that obligating to the village of Poquott to the maintenance of a portion of Maybeck Drive, which will become a public roadway, upon the approval of the resolution, recording of the permanent easements that have been offered for dedication is a proper public obligation and commitment of the village resources for the public benefit. And you're further resolving that the village therefore accepts the offer of dedication under the following conditions: that all costs incurred that I mentioned before will be paid by the property owners. That's cost of the administrative costs in the creation of this. That the property owners agree to cooperate in any amendment or additional documentation that might be required to complete this. That if it's necessary, the property owners will obtain any of subordination or consents that may be necessary in addition to the documents. I don't think so, but we'll look at that. The property owners will provide the village reasonable access for the completion of the public improvements on the easement created herein, and such other document as may reasonably be required by the village for the completion of this matter. So that's this resolution.
Do I have a motion to accept?
Accept the resolution of dedication? I'd like to speak to it first. And so I'd like to put in the minutes after I read this. Okay, first I'd like to make a motion that we postpone resolutions 9, 10, and 15 until everyone has a chance to digest the following information, as well as read the printout information related to my statement. Here. I spent a great deal of time researching village code, New York State law, and legal documents so that we can properly address the question of the private section of Maybeck. As you all know, we have fiduciary responsibility to to all residents of the village of Poquott. It is our responsibility to act in the best interest of the public. I cannot stand by when I have found legal information that should impact our decision making. We can be held accountable if the appropriate money or property of the village contrary to the law and or our legal obligations as elected officials. In addition, as board members, we all want to do the right thing without stepping outside the law or bending the rules or making the decision that adversely impacts some residents over others. To assume the financial burden of Maybeck without doing due diligence opens each person affirming said decision to liability, and the village may not be able to represent us legally because we have worked out of our scope of responsibilities. The trustees must adhere to village code, and the village has set standards for accepting the dedication of a private road. As described in our village code, the offer of cession of a street to the public is made and has been accepted. The planning board shall require written agreements or other documents satisfactory to the village attorney, providing for and fixing responsibility for the maintenance of the bonded street in quote-unquote all-weather passable condition, including snow removal and sanding during the period prior to the acceptance of the fully completed street as a village street by the village board. As currently proposed, Maybeck does not meet these standards. Said section is in severe and gross disrepair, and the following items should be addressed prior to any further discussion of this issue. Maybeck residents, number one, Maybeck residents should pay for a stratigraphic study, which would determine stratigraphic consideration, which would provide a geological analysis of subsurface sedimentary layers. For example, any analysis of the ground beneath the area in question should include an analysis of how far down a layer of clay may be, as this layer would not allow for drainage. How far below that would digging be needed to actually have a functioning drain? What would the cost be? Once step one is completed, Maybeck residents should determine the cost of bringing a road to, quote unquote, again from our code, all-weather passable condition. After such repairs are made, Maybeck residents can reapproach the village. Number three, in order to consider and prior to accepting proposed dedication of this road, the board needs to analyze projected ongoing costs and how expending said monies would benefit the rest of the 340 plus homes in this village, as the board has a fiduciary responsibility to watch over the finances of the village. Number four, the board also needs to determine what type of precedent this would set if the village takes on the financial responsibility of repairing Maybeck. By accepting the road in its present condition, either through cession or purchase of right-of-way, the board may be circumventing the law. This could create liability for said actions at this point. Further consideration to this decision should only be given after the above questions are answered to the satisfaction of all village elected officials and the public. And if anyone wishes, I do have a handout here that you can print up and give to folks about the use of municipal resources.
Madam Mayor,
No, that's not coming.
it's not a public comment.
That's what they decided. Nobody can.
I can still vote on it, right?
You could still vote on it. So just a comment about a couple of things that came up. The building, excuse me. The village has it's accurate, the village code has certain requirements, but they've never, there's two things going on here. One is that the village has set precedent in the past that its accepted roads not meeting those requirements, in one case, the major subdivision in the village. The other thing is that the substandard, if there is a substandard condition,
That road is no more so than any other road.
it may, and I shouldn't, this shouldn't be my attorney, this shouldn't be my opinion as an attorney, but it is the information that was given to us in meetings. that if there is a substandard condition in Maybeck, it's largely due to the engineering of the conditions on the entire roadway, including the existing public portion, not just the private portion.
Can we ask you not to make comments? I know you can't help from speaking out when it's not.
Well, when it's
Okay, so
so
please, if you cannot be
blatant,
quiet, then
yes.
you'll have to leave.
I will.
Okay.
I will.
Yeah, the other thing was that, I did, the principles that I talked about, I don't think that this is, with all due respect to trustee Pesek, I don't think that this is a situation where, I think what he's talking about is the use of public money for private purposes rather than for public purposes. I don't think that this is that type of situation. And I think that if you were questioned about this, you would be covered under Section 18 of the, Article 18 of the Public Officers Law, which covers, provides liability coverage to public officers. The rest of what was said.
Again, I'm going to ask this, is that if you cannot be quiet, and you keep disrupting the meeting, you'll be asked to leave.
It has to be verified by the engineer. I mean, there was one, the one thing that's not in, we have gotten verification from the engineer. I don't know if he's done it in writing. But that's, the missing link. If that link if that exists, it's not missing. If that exists, that's,
We've had a village engineer out there,
Yeah.
and he has confirmed.
right, then
So-
that's
I say we
the
vote on it,
that's the connection.
so.
Well, I would like to make a motion that we postpone it, people digest the information.
We've been
Perhaps have
digesting
a
it
public
for 4
hearing.
months now.
A public
let's vote on
hearing
it.
would be a great idea.
No, we've had hearings, the civics have had hearings, people have given out the information, this has been going
As
on
you
for
said, the
months now.
civics is not the village government.
Yeah,
I
they just
believe
think they are.
We should have a public hearing.
Right, okay, they just think they are.
Let me see if I understand this. You raised a number of points on that, and what you're saying is that there's not one outstanding point. That in terms of the legal part, the fiduciary part, the only question that you had was whether or not there was an engineering survey, and we have had that done.
Doesn't hold on, let me see.
So what are we,
All right,
what
and
Joe,
Joe said, in exact words, that you think we would not be liable if we overstep our bounds and do this. I believe we are overstepping our bounds as trustees, doing this by not following village code. And I believe in that case, we are open to liability issues
are we
that will
following?
not be protected by the village.
Are we following the village code in this? I mean,
Your own code, there's provisions in your own village code that are, cannot be met to some extent. I mean, if you do a dedication like this, there's, but the, so that's, provided you have the recommendation of the engineer, I think that it's, probably okay, would probably be okay to move ahead. And the problem is
And
that
if
the
we're gonna-
village,
If we don't do this, we're gonna have to do the other part.
No, I understand, but I just want, for the record, and for the people who are listening to this discussion, I mean, a lot of decisions are made in government that are, based on precedent and best estimates, and that's why you have things go to higher offices or whatever, but you can only go into it with a certain expectation that you're doing the right thing. So none of us being able to say with certainty that this is somehow going to be overturned at some point or whatever. But what you're saying is that there are certain aspects of the physical nature of the street that you could never meet, and it shouldn't really matter anyway that we're doing. We've done it before. It has stood. We've taken on a road before that didn't meet every chapter and verse.
actually an entire subdivision, basically a third of the village.
What subdivision was that?
Think of love.
Oh, and those roads were not up to standard?
No,
So those roads are the same condition as Maybeck, the private part of Maybeck is.
Well, we're talking about the legal point that you're making, not necessarily, that it's somehow better or worse. What we've done is we've met with everybody and we have gotten the best case scenario in terms of contributions, in terms of what we can do, because we already have to do the rest of the road. We've gotten money from the water department. What we said is that under the situation that we're dealing with, which is admittedly an imperfect situation, we can make this a viable road, village road, that any of us could then go walk down and bike through and not have to stumble into the hole. So it really does have a
You wouldn't even
wide
drive your car
effect.
down it. You wouldn't even drive your car down if the road was so bad.
Hey, you're not gonna bike through.
To anybody who says, I don't have any interest in this, I say, if your kids are out of school, do you still pay your school taxes? And the answer is yes, because it's a part of being in the community. And if this road in its present state is not passable, then none of us are gonna go walk our dogs down this block and whatever. But it needs to be done. We have the ability to do most of it already. So it just makes sense to do it, and it's doing the right thing for people who pay their taxes. They don't get any discounts. We've already, all that disinformation about that, they get.
Let me know when I can speak.
So we've
Let
already
me
tried.
know when I can talk back about this,
Okay,
okay?
I'm done.
To compare the dedication of new roads in Tinker Bluff to the dedication of Maybeck Road and its condition as a private road to the village, not a new road and a nice new development, is ludicrous.
It's for a
We're
legal
talking-
point. It's a legal
Right,
point.
exactly.
Well,
That's what you're
The size of the
raising
road
here.
is
It's a legal point. The legal point is, yeah, it's the same thing.
it's not the same thing. You can't accept a road in the condition that Maybeck is in according to our own village code. You can accept the roads in Tinker Bluff as they were built because of obvious reasons.
They didn't need,
They're up
they
to
weren't up,
code.
they weren't up to code.
They weren't up to
Well, it's
code.
not
They
up
weren't
to
wide
code.
enough.
Substandard roads.
Substandard roads. So the point is the same.
Oh,
Okay,
gosh.
so you're quibbling over it. And it doesn't matter whether you have 3 potholes or you have 30 potholes. If we're gonna come in and we're gonna redo the road, which we have to do the upper part anyway, it really makes sense to just keep going, and we've done all the legal things necessary to make it happen so that we have one nice road. And all of the water that's coming down from the top of the road is contributing to it. So we can't just say, look, it's your problem, folks.
I think we need a outside engineer to come in
We have
and
a village
analyze.
engineer. We have a village
Yeah.
engineer.
I would like to vote on this now.
Me too.
because
I'm with you.
basically, the reason I'm doing this is to see, well, why would you want to delay? What is the advantage of delaying?
Because there could be untold costs in terms of tens of thousands of dollars to the rest
What
of this
costs?
village. If
Trees could fall
we,
down tomorrow.
if we,
We don't have money for
May I
trees.
continue?
But we can put it private.
Are you sorry? You
can I continue, please? Okay, if we accept this, we are accepting it as is, irregardless of what's going on under the surface. Is there a clay layer 10 feet below, 12 feet below, that makes it impossible to drain these roads properly? So we repave it, and we still can't get rid of the water because it's a natural basin according to topography.
But we've had the engineer and the village public works, Mike, and we've had the water authority tell us where we have to do to fix the drainage problem. We already know the problem's gonna be fixed.
I'm glad you're so sure.
I am. I don't need to roll tennis balls down
This
there,
is,
if I let you know that.
So that was just to prove that nothing from
I say
Sharon
we
is
vote
going
for it.
down on Maybeck. It's just,
There's one thing is that, now, what happened first was there was a motion on this, and then did John make his motion to table?
Yeah.
No.
I
There
made
was no motion, but nobody seconded it.
Well, technically what happened was John made a motion.
Right.
John made a motion to, basically, he didn't say table, but basically.
not table, just to, to delay, to give us
Postpone
time to
9,
think
10,
about
15.
this and post, correct, thank you.
So the first question is if there's a second on John's motion.
Okay, now what?
Okay, so now there's the floor is open for another motion.
Okay. I say we take a motion to vote on whether we can accept the dedication of Maybeck.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Do you wanna call?
Hold it again.
Told you.
Oh, shit.
I told you.
Okay. Alright. Okay. Okay, who are we up to? The next part. Is that 10? Resolution directing Poquott to schedule drain repair on Maybeck as per Commissioner Mike Chaffee of Public Works. Do I have a second? All in favor?
I didn't even come close to you.
Move that. So I have to have a motion to take that off, Jeff?
Resolution to rename.
Yeah, motion to remove resolution number 11-2015.
I'll make sure we get out and know. That line, but
Okay.
No, we're up to 12.
Resolution directing Clerk Newfield to schedule and according and notice accordingly public place recorded
Second, all in favor? Motion
Aye.
carries. We can remove motion number 13.
Resolution 14, resolution directing Clerk Newfield to order village stickers for 2016.
Do you want to table that until after you find out?
Yes.
Okay, so resolution to table, motion to table resolution 11-2015 till next meeting, okay?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Am I out?
Yep.
Resolution directing Clerk Newfield to schedule paving on Maybeck Road on August 13th, 2015.
Second. Who wants that?
I
All in
have a
favor?
question on the motion. So this just has to work with the, this should be, so whatever date you pick should be subject to my filing all these documents, getting all the proper documents and getting them filed and
Okay.
recorded. There's still stuff on one.
We would have to make a resolution to amend the wording.
Yes. So it should be on the report of the village attorney that all proper documents have been recorded, accepted for recording.
The bid on August 13th stands.
Yes, they were willing to hold that.
Okay.
Okay.
So we have to get there's a process now that we have to go through. There was a formal offer of dedication and a formal acceptance. Now there's a process that we have to go through to get everything recorded.
So we can do an additional resolution and do this whatever, right?
Well, no, I'm gonna record it, but it's just, you don't wanna schedule the paving. The paving can't be scheduled until everything's recorded, that's what I'm saying. So if you're gonna schedule the paving, it should say that, within, upon the recording of the document,
I'll
proper,
second, thank you. Maybe
two,
we'll just
a
table
week or
that.
two,
Oh, yeah.
2 weeks.
So, before then, we would have, it's not gonna be another month.
When is the next meeting?
December, but we want to try and get it in before it's now.
Well, the end of the month.
Okay, so,
Okay.
can we phrase this as you just said? Resolution directing Clerk Newfield to schedule paving on Maybeck Road per accepted bid on August 13th, 2015, pending
The, pending the, recording of the, completed documents by the village attorney.
Second?
Second.
Favor?
I vote no, Joe. Make sure you put it down, please.
Resolution to accept the monthly financial statements beginning June 2014 ending on 31st, 2015, as prepared by R.S. Abrams and Company, all paid.
Second move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Resolution to create a budget modification for GL account 8511.2